This is Pokemon Infinite Fusion, the fan game with over 251,000 different Pokemon combinations. And we're here today to see if we can beat a hardcore Nuzlocke using only green's Pokemon. No, not that green, this green. That's right, in Japan, blue and green's names are swapped because, well, green came out before blue in Japan. But anywho, just like when we did red and blue's runs earlier this month, every fusion we're allowed to use is going to be comprised at least one of green's Pokemon in the Pokemon Adventures Manga. In spoiler alert for the manga, Green starts off as not that great of a person. In the manga, her original starter Pokemon is Jigglypuff before she steals a Squirtle from Professor Oak. So just like with every other run, we're going to be starting off with those two Pokemon. Every time we earn a badge, we'll be able to add another one of Green's Pokemon to our team. And as a little bit of a twist for Green's team specifically, once we get our 8th and final badge, we'll actually have access to all 3 Cantonian legendary birds. Since in the manga, she's actually the one who captures the 3 of them. But just in case you didn't know, in a hardcore Nuzlocke, if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead. The level cap is the next leader's ace. No active items can be used in battle, and we play the games on set mode. If you like the video, the sound of my voice, and this isn't your first time here, you should definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. The only way I'm going to be able to continue to grow as a creator is with all of your help, so anything you could do could be super cool. Plus, you should hit that like button as well. Starting in Professor Oak's lab, we're going to yoink our Squirtle, and then get the heck out of here before anybody notices. Over on Route 1, we're going to grab a Hoot. Next on Route 2, we're going to grab a Caterpie. On Route 22, we're going to grab a Nidoran male. In the Secret Garden, we're going to grab ourselves an Eevee. In Viridian Forest, we can grab this Peepee. And over on Route 3, we grab a Sunkern. For our first fusion, we're going to start off with Pichu and Squirtle, and get this adorable little Squirtju. And up next, we are going to be fusing Jigglypuff with Hoot to get ourselves Hootpuff. And now it's time for us to take on Brock and his Rock Hard Boys. GOG comes in first and we send in Blasty. And we're going to outspeed with a Water Gun doing about 80% as he goes for a Rock Polish. And after that he's going to go for a Sand Attack, but one more Water Gun takes GOG down, which leads into Dignix, who's going to go for a Bind on us, and we can fire off a Water Gun, getting him down to his Sturdy. After that, he's going to go for a range, but one more Squirty Squirt of the wet stuff takes him down, and we defeat Brock. And after earning our first badge, we're going to add Zambian to the party. While fighting our way across Route 3, Blasty's going to have a few evolutions. First into Squirtju, and then one more time into Warchew. Just outside of Mount Moon, we run into Nurse Joy tending to this wounded Geodude. And then out of nowhere, galloping in on the back of his GOG, those glorious arms flapping in the breeze, enter Brock, and he knows just what this rock needs. Brock rips off his shirt, showing that his Pokemon aren't the only thing that's rock hard, and he rubs the Geodude across his chest. And like magic, the Geodude springs back to life at 100% health, and Nurse Joy needs to go back to the Pokemon Center to cool herself off and grab our fish from this sucker, and a Zubat inside of Mount Moon. At the back of Mount Moon, we run into Team Rocket, who has apparently captured this rock scientist and taken all of his Moonstones, which is incredibly unfortunate because of how many of them I'm gonna need in this run. But anywho, apparently Giovanni wants to use these Moonstones to try a triple fusion. So they lay the 3 rocket starters down and plan on smushing a bunch of Moonstones in them until something cool happens. But since none of these Pokemon evolve via Moonstone, when the Rocket Grunt presses the button on the machine, it explodes, blasting off Giovanni and the rest of Team Rocket. And this guy tells us he'll give us a fossil for saving him. I didn't do anything. Anyways, praise Lord Helix. On Route 4, we grab a Hoppip. And over on Route 4, we get everybody's second favorite bad grass Pokemon from Gen 2. I can't believe I'm doing this literally right after I made fun of it, but we are going to fuse Hoppip up with Abra to get ourselves Abpip. And Zammy is going to start evolving, and is going to evolve right away into a Caterpie. And then Zammy's going to evolve just one more time into a Cataloom. And next up to evolve is going to be Jiggly, who first becomes a Noctpuff. And then after exposing it to a Moonstone just one more time, into a Noctpuff. And look at this guy! We run into Rando over on Nugget Bridge, where he asks if we come here often. He then goes to lean along the railing on the side of the bridge, but he's not quite close enough and tumbles over. He stands up embarrassed and challenges us to a battle. Rando starts off by sending in Neoto, and we send in Blasty. I'm going to go for a Nasty Plot right away, and then this thing is going to go for a double kick, which is going to activate our static. Then at +2, a Thunder Shock still doesn't take this thing down, as it then goes for a Poison Sting. Rando then heals up with a Super Potion, and we can go for another Thunder Shock, taking it down. Next up comes Mantata. And I'm going to squirt a bunch of bubbles at this thing, and we can get a crit Oko, which is fantastic. And in comes Charizard. And since this thing isn't grass, it's not going to be able to resist a bubble, and we can take it out in one shot. And after that, a regular ordinary Abra comes in, which we can chomp on, quickly KOing it, defeating Rando. Over on Route 24, we're going to grab ourselves an Oddish. After getting across Route 24 and Route 25, we find Bill in his lab, where he's experimenting with Pokemon Human Fusion. But when he fuses himself up with his Rhydon, he chose the wrong combination. He didn't want Rock Normal, he wanted Rock Ground. So we agree to help him reverse the fusion. And after we hit the button on the machine, out comes Bill on the other side, with Rhydon's solid rock ability. And I gotta say, that body's looking pretty solid, Bill. And then he gives us some boat tickets. And we're on to our next gym battle. And now it's time for us to take on Misty and her water Pokemon. She starts off with Jigglydean, and I'm gonna send in Zammy. We're gonna go for a Psybeam where we can score a massive hit, and after taking a Water Pulse, she's gonna heal up. And going for another Psybeam gets her down pretty low, and one more takes her down, which leads into Oddhue. I'm gonna try to go for a Poison Powder, but then I remember that this thing is grass, you silly goose, and then we go for a Synthesis to make sure that we're topped off, as it goes for a Water Pulse, which unfortunately confuses us. And after slapping ourselves in the face, it's gonna activate our Berry, and she then goes for a Mega Drain. After that, we're gonna break through the confusion to go for a Synthesis, as she goes for another Mega Drain. Now that we're snapped out of confusion, I'm going to go for a Psybeam, doing just over half, and we get the confusion off, which is huge, especially since it punches itself in the face, which means after one more Psybeam, we take it down, and we defeat Misty. And for better or for worse, Diddy can join the party now. Over on Route 5, we're going to grab a Meowth. On Route 6, we're going to grab a Pidgey. And on Route 11, we're going to grab a Mareep. Over on the SS, and we run into Rando once again, where it looks like he got a part-time job as a bartender here. Apparently he's been waiting tables trying to save up enough money for something very important, for someone even more important. And I'm getting a little uncomfortable with the way that he's looking at me, so I decide maybe we should battle. Rando starts off with Neoto, and I send in Blasty. And I'm gonna go for a Spark right away, and we can grab the Oko on this thing, which is gonna lead into Manacate. And once again, we're going to go for another Spark, and we're going to do about 2/3 and get the Paralysis off, which is awesome. After that, Manacate goes for a Seismic Toss, and Rando heals up. So we're going to go for a Spark, and then one more, KOing this big rat. Which leads into Starbra, who we can outspeed, go for a Spark, grab the KO. And his final Pokemon, Charizard, comes in. And we're going to go for a super effective Water Pulse, getting him down into the red as he fires off an Ember, doing barely anything to us. And with one more Water Pulse, we defeat Rando. And I'll catch you next time, buddy. Before facing off against Surge, we're going to grab a Diglett, who we're going to fuse up with Diglett right away and get ourselves Ditlit. And we're going to have Diddy evolve right away into its final form of Ditrio. And now it's time for us to take on Surge and his electric Pokemon. Surge starts out with Volpe, and we're going to send in Blasty. I'm going to go for a Spark right away, doing about 1/3 as it goes for a Spark as well. And when we go for another one, it sets up a Light Screen and then heals up. So we're going to go for another Spark, and then a second one, getting it back down into the red as it goes for a Metal Claw. After using his second Super Potion, we can start going for some more Sparks, getting him back down pretty low as he goes for a Bubble for some reason, which is going to activate our Berry. And as soon as the light screen wears off, this thing goes down, leading into Piccolette, who's going to go for a Quick Attack, and we can go for a Water Pulse, scoring a massive hit and grabbing the KO, which leads into Rybuzz. And assuming a Thunder Punch, I'm going to swap out Blasty and send in Diddy, as it doesn't try to go for a Thunder Punch. After that, it's going to set up a double team, and we miss our Bulldoze as it sets up a second one. But we manage to connect, getting him down super low as he uses his Citrus Berry. After that, he goes for a Quick Attack, and we can connect with another Bulldoze, meaning that we KO and defeat Lieutenant Surge. And with another badge earned, we can add Horsey, the Horsey, into our party. Over on Route 9, we're going to grab a Voltorb, On Route 10, we're gonna grab ourselves an Ekans. In Rock Tunnel, we're gonna grab our Honedge. While fighting our way over to Celadon City, Zammy is going to evolve into a Catalaf. And honestly, this thing is the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life. On Route 8, we're gonna grab ourselves a Growlithe. On Route 7, we're gonna grab a Bellsprout. In the Celadon condos, we're gonna grab ourselves another Eevee. And in the game corner, we're gonna grab a Dratini. Once we get access to the department store, we can give a Firestone to one of our Eevees and fuse it up with Horsey and check out Flassie. And then Flassie is going to evolve right away, becoming Bladra. We're then gonna give Blasty a Thunderstone, having it evolve into Warchew. We get a weird phone call from Rando, so we head over to Pokemon Tower, where he proposes that we have a life celebration here. Apparently, after our last battle, his man Tata unfortunately succumbed to its wounds. But with that being said, he gets down on one knee and proposes that we start a new life together. And I didn't even know you had a crush on me. Rando starts off with Q-Odo, and we send in Blasty. So randomly he has this instead of Neoto, and I don't know what triggers that. But anywho, after he heals up once from a Water Pulse, we're going to go for another one, bringing him down pretty low. After that, Rando uses another potion, and we can go for a Nasty Plot. And then with one more Water Pulse, take Q-Odo down, which leads into Starbra. Now that we're at +2, we're going to go for a Thunderbolt, but this thing outspeeds me. But once we can go for our actual attack, we take it down in 1. Next up comes its unfused Gyarados, and this thing doesn't even have the decency to have a fusion. And with one Thunderbolt, it goes down, which is going to lead into Charizard. After the battle ends, Rando says he understands that we can't get married. After all, we haven't even had our first date yet. And to that, I say, absolutely, that's 100% why I won't marry you. But before he can ask me whether or not we can go on that first date, we hear some loud screaming going on the other side of the room. Just in time. We go over to check it out, and we see a couple of rocket grunts harassing this old man, who I recognize as the renowned scientist, Mr. Fuji. I can't imagine what Team Rocket wants with an old retired scientist, but they force him up the stairs against his will. When we follow in pursuit, it turns out that the door has been locked. And Rando lets us know that he heard a rumor that the Celadon City Casino is actually a front for Team Rocket. So maybe if we can find out where they're hiding, we can get another key to save Mr. Fuji. And Rando, you've never looked more attractive to me right now. We then see this awesome power move with Rando taking on 2 rocket grunts at the same time. His Gyarados furiously pounding on their rats, and they retreat into the sewers. It turns out that Team Rocket does have a super secret hidden base in the sewer system underneath Celadon City. And he lets us know that he's going to clear them out and win our heart. But before he does, he's going to head over to the mall to buy some waders, because he doesn't want to get his new shoes and pants all super gross. And with a skip in his step, he races off to buy those rubber pants. But now enter Erika, the local gym leader. And she says we don't need no man to clear out this rocket base. We can do it ourselves. 2 powerful ladies in this mess of vines. And I say, absolutely, Erika. Let's do it. Once we work our way through the sewer and get to their super secret base, Erika says it would be a great idea for us to split up. And I agree. Divide and conquer. After we fight our way through Team Rocket's super secret base, we find that Erika has already been defeated by Giovanni. And when confronted with the legendary mobster, it looks like it's going to be time for us to prove that we're a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. Giovanni starts off by sending in Onyx, and we send in Blasty. I'm going to go for a Nasty Plot on the first turn, and this thing's going to go for an Acid Spray, which is incredibly unfortunate. But Wayne can fire off a Water Pulse, getting him down to a Sturdy, and with the confusion, it knocks itself out, which is going to lead into Ryros. And we're going to go for another Water Pulse, and we can Oko this thing, no problem. Finally, his Ace HauntCon comes in, who is going to outspeed us and go for a payback, doing some chip damage, and we can then go for a Thunderbolt, getting him down pretty low. After that, Giovanni's going to use his first potion, and we can go for another Thunderbolt, getting him down super low, as the HauntCon goes for another payback. But with one more Thunderbolt, Blasty takes care of Team Rocket. After being defeated by a little girl, Giovanni decides it's time for him and Team Rocket to pack up their things and leave. They got better, more important things to do anyways. Erika then lets us know that in this green Pokeball behind her is the key to saving Mr. Fuji. Literally, it's the key for the locked door at Pokemon Tower, so we better hurry, but we better stop off at her gym first for a fight. And now it's time for us to take on Erika and her grassy goons. Execuduo's gonna come out as her first Pokemon, and I love this sprite so much. Anyways, we're gonna send in Horsey. We're gonna then outspeed, and then we're gonna go for a flamethrower, KOing it in just one shot. This is gonna lead into her next Pokemon, Tanape, who's gonna go for an ancient power, doing a good amount of damage to us. But we can fire back with a flamethrower, then taking it down. Her final Pokemon, Vileplume, comes in, who is going to start revving up a Solar Beam, which is kind of unfortunate for me, but we're going to go for one more Flamethrower. Getting it down super low, are you kidding me? I'm not going to risk the neutral damage on such a powerful move, so we're going to swap out into Jiggly because I have an insane amount of HP. After that, Vileplume goes for a Poison Powder instead of healing up for reasons completely unknown to me, so we can go for an Air Slash and then finish it off. With that, we've defeated Erika. And with another badge in hand, we can add Nido into the party. I'm going to fuse up Nido with Oddish and get ourselves this adorable little Oddran. We're then going to have this bad boy start evolving a whole bunch of times. First, into Gulran, and shortly thereafter into Gurina. We're then going to expose this bad boy to a Moonstone and have her ascend into a Goo Queen. And then finally one more time into its final form of Vile Queen. And I love the little Oddishes around it. In Pokemon Tower, we're going to grab a Ghastly. After getting to the top of Pokemon Tower and saving Mr. Fuji, we find out Team Rocket's ultimate goal. Apparently, he was the original creator of the Master Ball, and Team Rocket has stolen his blueprints. They plan on taking over Silph Co and all of Saffron City in order to produce enough Master Balls to capture all the Cantonian legendary Pokemon. And once he's captured them, he plans on fusing them together into some sort of super Pokemon. Mr. Fuji then lets us know that we're his only hope. We need to go to Saffron City and save everyone. But before that, I need to go to Fuchsia because there's a badge with my name on it. We dance for this mysterious bear in the middle of the road and stuff it in a tiny ball. On our way down to Fuchsia City, Blasty is going to ascend into its final form of Blastoise. And check out this sprite!
It's like he's wearing a little turtle hat.
In the Safari Zone, we're going to get a 2-for-1 with a Venusaur. And now it's time for us to take on Koga and his poison Pokemon. Koga's going to start off by sending in Venomer, and we send in Horsey. Koga's first 3 Pokemon are all weak to fire, so Venomer's going to go down in one shot, and when Magnifink comes in as well, it also gets taken down. Next up is going to come Beether, who lays down some Toxic Spikes before we go for a Flamethrower, taking it out as well. Once Chinook comes in, my plan here is to go for a Will-O-Wisp to cut its attack, as all this thing does is use Toxic and then stall people out with Double Team. So now that we have some guaranteed damage on this thing and its takedowns depowered a bit, I'm hoping we can just take it out with Horsey without having to switch. So after going for a second Flamethrower, we got it down pretty low, which probably means Koga's going to heal up on the following turn. But he doesn't and goes for a Toxic instead. Now that he's down into the red, he does use that potion and we miss again. I'm then going to swap out Horsey and send Zammy in as he goes for another takedown, doing a bit of damage to us. I'm then going to set up a Reflect to try and dodge a little bit more damage as he sets up another Double Team. From here, I'm just going to keep on trying to go to Leech Seeds, but I get crit on a takedown, scoring a massive hit on me. Holy moly. We then manage to get the Leech Seed off, which is awesome, but now I'm Toxic, which is less awesome. But now we do have 2 sources of damage going off on this thing, and the Leech Seed is sucking up a lot of health. We're then going to swap out again, this time into Nido, who's going to get poisoned as he goes for another takedown. And left on a sliver, he takes himself out with a takedown, and we defeat Koga. With Koga defeated, we'll be able to add Drilly into the party, but I think I like where I am right now. While fighting our way through Silph Co, Zammy is going to ascend to his final form of Alalaf. And now you see why I decided to fuse Alakazam with this guy! And with everybody in Silph Co saved, we're gonna grab ourselves our Lapras. And after saving everybody in Silph Co, enter Rando, who lets us know that he got a full-time job here because he's gonna get us the engagement ring that we deserved. But I remind him that we still haven't gone on that first date yet. So he proposes a Pokemon battle. If he wins, we go on a date. If I win, we go on a date. Rando starts off with Nita Geon, and we're gonna send him Blasty. He goes for a Poison Sting and we go for a Nasty Plot to double our special attack. And after thrashing us, he's gonna get static, which is great, and we can go for a Thunderbolt, KOing, which is greater. Next up comes his Unfused Tauros, who's gonna go for a Zen Headbutt, which is gonna knock us just below half, activating our berry. And at +2, we're gonna go for a Stab Thunderbolt, doing about 2/3. I'm gonna swap Blasty out and instead send in Nito as he goes for another takedown, scoring a huge hit on us, holy crap. So that was a bad idea, so let's swap Nito out and send in Diddy as he goes for a payback this time, doing a massive amount of damage. The Tauros then goes for a workup, and I cannot believe that this Tauros is faster than a Doug trio, holy moly. But after we go for a dig, we can then take it down. Out next comes Charizard, who we can outspeed, and we're gonna go for a dig, doing a massive amount of damage and grabbing the Oko. Next out comes Starbra. And assuming a water move, we're gonna swap out, sending in Blasty as he goes for a Confuse Ray instead. After that, he's gonna go for a Power Gem, and we slap ourselves in confusion. So we need to swap, and we do, sending in Horsey as he goes for another Power Gem, which I was not expecting. So assuming another Power Gem, I'm gonna swap out, sending in Diddy instead, and he calls it, going for a Psychic, KOing Diddy. So we're gonna send in Zammy, where we can go for a Mega Drain doing just over 50%, and he's going to go for a Power Gem doing just over 50% to us, but we will heal back up with our Citrus Berry. And after that, we can go for one more Mega Drain, taking down the Starbra. His final Pokemon, Electados, comes in, and I'm going to swap Zammy out and instead send in Nito because I'm assuming an electric move, and it goes for a Screech. So now assuming a Thrash, we're going to swap out Nito and send in Jiggly as he goes for another Screech. I am not calling any of these as a Thunder Punch comes in and Oko's Jiggly. So in comes Horsey. And this jerk is going to go for another Screech, but we fire off an Ice Beam and we don't even do half. He then goes for a Discharge and down goes Horsey. Am I going to have to date Rando? Okay, Nito comes in. And luckily he misses a Screech as we can go for a Moonlight. And then after missing another Screech, we go for a Giga Drain, getting him down into the red. After he connects with a Screech, we can go for another Giga Drain, getting him down super low. And once he sets up a light screen, one more Giga Drain takes down Electados. And Rando absolutely ravaged my team. After our battle, Rando looks over at the Silph President's office to his left, and he suggests that maybe for our first date, we save everybody in Silph Co and Saffron City. And I don't like that he just knocked out 3 of my 6 Pokemon, but I do like the idea of that. Let's do it, Rando. Rando and I bust into the President's office where he and Giovanni are arguing about Master Ball production. And Giovanni recognizes us from the last time we battled, and he proposes that maybe we ditch the Zero and get with the hero. And the double battle begins. He starts off by sending in Primarino and Ryros, and we're going to send in Nidogia and Blasty. Nidogia goes for a Poison Sting on Ryras, getting the poison off, which is great, and then Primarino's going to go for a Thrash. We're going to then use a Nasty Plot before Ryros goes for a Stone Edge on Nidogia, scoring a massive hit and the KO. Charizard comes in next. Primarino is then going to go for a Thrash on us, doing a decent amount of damage, but luckily the static is going off on him. And we can fire off a Flash Cannon on the Ryros, taking him down way into the red. After that, a Flame Burst on Primarino does some good damage and a bit more to the Ryros, and it's enough for the poison to then take it down. Genkan comes out next, and is going to go for a Dark Pulse on Blasty, doing a decent amount of damage, but this will activate our Citrus Berry. I'm then going to go for a Surf, even though it's a horrible idea on Charizard, and I get the Primarino down super low, but not low enough. But fortunately, it's paralyzed as Tauros comes in. Giovanni is then going to use a Max Potion on Primarino, and Tauros can go for a Zed Headbutt on Primarino, grabbing an Oko. It's awesome. A Dark Pulse is then going to come back in on Blasty, doing a decent amount of damage, and we can go for another Surf, doing 50% to Tauros and getting Genkan down wicked low. I'm then going to swap out Blasty and send in Nito instead. Tauros misses the Zen Headbutt, and Sanqueen is going to go for a Dig. Genkan then goes for a Payback, getting Tauros into the red. Sanqueen goes for the Dig on Tauros, finishing it off. After that, a Dark Pulse on us is going to do a bit of damage, but we can go for a Giga Drain to KO Genkan. Darkazam goes for a Power Gem, doing a bit of chip damage before Sand Queen whips up a Sandstorm, which is going to avoid most of the Giga Drain damage. Darkazam then goes for another Power Gem for reasons unknown to me, and a Gyro Ball on him does a bit of damage, and we're going to then go for another Giga Drain, getting him down quite low. Darkazam finally uses a useful move like Confuse Ray, getting him down into the red, so once we go for a Giga Drain, we KO, defeating Giovanni. But Giovanni's already got what he came for. 3 perfect Master Balls for 3 perfect birds. And once he catches those 3 big beautiful birds, his plan will finally come to fruition. And for saving everyone in Silph Co, we're gonna grab a Cyndaquil. Needing, like, literally anybody, we're gonna fuse up Beedrill with Scizor to get ourselves Bezoar. And I had no idea that one of the sprites for this thing was just Stingmon. We're doing that. And now it's time for us to take on Sabrina and her Psychic Pokemon. Sabrina's gonna start off by sending in Hipmime, who I hear is a really cool dude, and we send in Drilly. It's gonna go for a Nasty Plot on the first turn, and we're gonna go for an X-Scissor, doing a decent amount of damage. Except I completely forgot that Fairy resists Bug, so we don't Oko it. Anywho, it's gonna swap out and send an Espeon. And we go for another X-Scissor, but we can get the Oko on the doggo. Alabro comes in next, and we're gonna go for a Swarm Boosted Stab X-Scissor on it, getting it pretty low as it goes for an Amnesia. Which is fine because Sabrina's just gonna heal up, and we can go for another X-Scissor, getting it down wicked low again before she uses her second potion. Now going for a third X-Scissor, we get it down low again before we can take it down on the following turn. Next out comes Genkazam, who's gonna go for a Combine, which would be a great move if I didn't have a quad super effective Night Slash, KOing it in one shot. This is gonna lead back into Hipmime, who's gonna go for a Hypnosis and actually hit us. He's then going to start setting up some Nasty Plots, and I really need to wake up as a Psychic does almost 50% to me, and a second one gets me down to 9. But I wake up going for a Poison Jab, grabbing the KO, and by the skin of Drilly's teeth, he defeats Sabrina. And now with access to Surf, we can get a few more encounters. First, we're going to go over to Bill's house and grab our Porygon. On Route 23, we're going to grab a Graveler. We're then going to also grab our Altaria egg. On the Viridian River, we're going to grab a Mudkip. Then from our brother, we're going to grab a Bulbasaur egg. And on 21, a Tentacool. Then finally, we're going to show this guy Drilly, and he'll give us a Pineco. Being able to add Clefable to the party means we can fuse it up with Porygon after we evolve it, and we're going to get ourselves Clefgon Z. And now it's time for us to take on Blaine and his Fire Guys. Blue Dash is going to come in as his first Pokemon, and we're going to send in Zammy. I'm going to try to stack up a couple of Combines because I assume that this thing is going to go for a Solar Beam as it decides to set up a Toxic instead, which is super annoying. And now that we're at +2, it's getting that Solar Beam ready. But we're going to go for a +2 Psychic, taking it down before it gets the chance. Which leads into Pterodactyl. And I'm going to swap Zammy out and instead send in Blasty as it goes for a Fire Blast. After that, it goes for a Hyper Beam, getting me down below half, and it's going to activate our Berry. But knowing it can't attack on this turn, we can safely go for a Surf and KO it. Which leads into Magong, who we're going to use Surf on, and it still goes down in one shot despite the fact that it has a Pacha Berry. Finally, 9-9 comes in, and it's going to go for a Confuse Ray on us. But we managed to break through and go for a +2 Stab Surf, taking it out, and we defeat Blaine. And with our final standard Pokemon being available for our party, we're gonna fuse it up with Snorlax, and Bully becomes a Snorbull. We catch up with Giovanni and the rest of Team Rocket over on Mount Ember, where apparently Giovanni has managed to capture all 3 Cantonian legendary birds, and he's fused them together into the magnificent Zap Mokuno. But that's a dumb name, you should call it something cool like Superbird. Upon hearing my nose, Giovanni turns to find us, the girl who has been nipping at his heels every step of the way. And now that he's armed with the power of Superbird, which he's taking the name of, he totally came up with it, not us, he will finally defeat us, and then nobody will be able to stop him in taking over the entirety of the Kanto. region. Now, I normally like to have a big old bug bomb for this, which I don't have, so we'll see how it goes as Zapmokuno comes in and I send in Bully. Recognizing that Zapdos is probably the biggest problem I have here, I'm going to go for it first. Articuno and Moltres are both going to go for their respective moves as Zapdos sets up a light screen. And I can go for an Ice Gem boosted Ice Punch, getting Zapdos down wicked low. After that, another Flamethrower is going to go off and a Reflect's going to get set up. Zapdos is going to go for a Thunderbolt, getting me down below half, and we can go for one more Ice Punch, taking Zapdos down. Now I'm going to swap out and send in Blasty instead because I can resist both of the stab moves that this thing has. And we can take an Ice Beam and a Flamethrower, no problem. After that, we're going to go for a Discharge, and we do basically nothing, which is crazy. But we do manage to get the paralysis off on Articuno, which is something, I guess. And after that, a Safeguard's going to get set up. Oh wait, I forgot I set up a light screen. Okay, well now they're both at about half, and a Flamethrower is going to come in, and the light screen's finally gone. Which means when we go for another Discharge, we've got them both down into the red, which is fantastic. As a Flamethrower comes in, and an Ice Beam comes in as well, I'm going to be down pretty low now. But since I'm faster, I can finally get off one last Discharge, taking both of them down. And I didn't lose anybody. I did not expect that. With Superbird diffused and Giovanni's hopes and dreams dashed, they go off to where they're supposed to be. And by that I mean my PC box, because I'm allowed to use the 3 of them after I get my 8th and final badge. And now it's time for us to take on Giovanni for our 8th and final badge. Giovanni starts off by sending in Ryros, and we send in Blasty. I'm going to go for a Nasty Plot on the first turn because of course I am, and he's going to go for a Surf, doing next to nothing. And I might as well go for a second one as he then goes for a Bulldoze, scoring a massive hit on us. I do not love that our speed is lowered because now even this thing is faster than me, but we can go for a Surf and take it down. Next out comes Glystar, who's going to go for a Poison Jab, getting me down pretty low, but it will activate our Static, which is fantastic. What's less fantastic, though, is that I'm now poisoned, but at +4, we take down Glystar in 1. Next out comes Gochamp. And with Gochamp in, we're going to swap out and send in Nido as he goes for a Dynamic Punch, doing a lot. Luckily, we break through when we go for a Giga Drain, and we can bring Gochamp down pretty low while healing almost back up to full. He then goes for another Dynamic Punch, which is going to activate our Berry and heal us up. Giovanni then uses the full restore, and we slap ourselves in the face, but we snap out of it, going for another Giga Drain, getting him down quite low. Another Dynamic Punch knocks us way into the red. So I'm going to swap out into Zammy as he tries to go for a counter, which obviously does nothing. Giovanni uses his next full restore, and we can go for a Psychic, getting him down quite low. Giovanni's going to continue to heal up until he runs out of full restores, and we can take Gochamp out. Next up comes Electatrio. And we're going to swap out Zammy, and I'm going to send in Bully as this thing goes for a Discharge. It then goes for a Bulldoze, lowering our crappy speed, and an Ice Punch gets it in the red. After that, it's going to go for a Thunder Wave, and unfortunately, we're going to be paralyzed in the following turn as it sets up a light screen. But we can break through the paralysis for one more Ice Punch, taking it down. Rylax comes in. The Rylax somehow connects with a Horn Drill, and Bully goes down. So I guess I'll send in Zammy. And we are going to go for an Energy Ball, and we do basically nothing. Holy smokes. He then tries to go for another Horn Drill like a total dick, but we can set up a Leech Seed as he misses again. Now going for a Psychic, we do a bit more damage, and he's just going to keep on going for it, huh? Now with the light screen worn off, we can go for one last Energy Ball, taking down Rylax. And I cannot believe that Giovanni hit me with that Horn Drill. But with him defeated, we have earned our 8th and final gym badge. I thought I would want to make more swaps, but I'm actually only going to use Moltres, and we're going to fuse it up with Aegislash to get ourselves Aegitriss. And now that we've finally made it to the Indigo Plateau, let's take one final look at our team. First up is Blasty the Blast Shoe, with Discharge, Surf, Flash Cannon, and Nasty Plot. Nido the Vile Queen, with Giga Drain, Earth Power, Moonlight, and Toxic Spikes. Cleffy the Clefgon Z, with Tri-Attack, Moonblast, Minimize, and Nasty Plot. Drilly the Beezor, with X-Scissor, Night Slash, Swords Dance, and Iron Head. Zammy the Aleph with Psychic, Energy Ball, Leech Seed, and Calm Mind. And finally, Multi the Aegitress with Iron Head, Swords Dance, Sacred Sword, and Aerial Ace. And our first battle is going to be up against Lorelei and her Ice Guide. Magwargon comes in first, and we send in Blasty. I'm going to go for a nasty plot, and this thing is going to go for a flamethrower on the first turn, doing some chip damage. And after hitting us again, we're going to go for a second nasty plot. After it sets up the hail, we can then go for a discharge, bringing it down super low. After Lorelei heals up, I'm then going to go for a flash cannon instead, doing about 60% and lowering its special defense. And when Lorelei uses her second full restore, one more discharge takes it down. Next up comes Mombro. And I'm going to have Blasty go for a super effective flash cannon, grabbing the Yoko on Mombro. The hail is then going to knock us down low enough to activate our berry as Jing Growth comes in. And going for a flash cannon takes it down in one shot as well, which leads into Weaveros. It's going to go for a Night Slash, doing some chip damage to us, and we're going to go for a Stab Discharge, doing quite a bit of damage. After that, it's going to go for an Embargo, but that's fine, I already used my berry, and one last discharge takes it down. Which leads into Tensicaster, her final Pokemon, who we can outspeed and go for a +4 super effective Stab Discharge, grabbing the Oko, defeating Lorelei. And now it's going to be time for us to take on Bruno and his rock hard body boys. Bruno starts off with a Motherfire, and we send in Cleffy. I'm going to go for a nasty plot on the first turn as it goes for a discharge, unfortunately paralyzing me. It's then going to go for a second discharge, doing a little bit more damage, and we can fire off a Moonblast, taking it out in one. Next up comes C-Champ, who's going to go for a submission, knocking me well below half, activating our berry. And unfortunately, we're paralyzed. So I'm going to swap Cleffy out and instead send in Multi, and this thing's going to go for a full restore. On the following turn, we're going to go for a Swords Dance as he goes for an Iron Tail. And we can go for a Sacred Sword, doing quite a bit of damage as he whips up a Sandstorm. And with one more Sacred Sword, down goes C-Champ, which leads into Magnetics. Who's going to go for a Magnet Rise, and I don't know why, and I go for a Sacred Sword because reasons. After that, Bruno uses a full restore, and we can go for another Sacred Sword. And one more is going to take it down, but not before we get knocked down to just 9 HP with a Zap Cannon. Holy smokes, that was close. Next up comes Marachan. I know this thing normally just spams counter, so I swap out into Nido expecting that, but he goes for a Dynamic Punch. So if that's the way he wants to play it, I'm going to swap out Nido and send in Zammy instead as he tries to go for a Boomerang. And we're then going to go for a Calm Mind as he tries to go for a counter. After that, we can go for a +1 Psychic, easily taking it down, which will lead into Cycross, his final Pokemon. We're going to then go for a Psychic, grabbing ourselves the Yoko, and with that, we defeat Bruno. And now it's time for us to take on Agatha and her ghastly ghouls. Ms. Bat comes in first, and I'm going to send in Drilly. It goes for a Shadow Ball, doing honestly a lot more than I thought it would, and after going for a Swords Dance and taking a Wing Attack, our berry's going to get activated and we can Yoko this thing, which leads out into Gendoom, who I know has Inferno, so I'm going to swap out Drilly and send in Blasty as he does indeed go for that Inferno. Unfortunately, it gets the burn off on us, but I don't really care as it goes for a Shadow Ball, activating our berry, and we can go for a Surf, almost KOing it, but not quite. Agatha then uses their first full restore, and we can go for another one, scoring a crit and getting the KO, which leads into Umter. So I'm going to swap out Blasty and instead send in Multi, as this thing goes for a Dark Pulse, doing a bit of damage to us. Another Dark Pulse is going to get me to about half, and unfortunately it flinches me, as now my berry's going to get activated after a third, and we can go for a Swords Dance. After that, it's going to go for another Dark Pulse, doing some more damage to us, and we can go for an Iron Head, doing about 70%. After that, another Dark Pulse is going to come in, getting me down into the red, but we can safely take it down with another Iron Head, which will now lead into Snorgar, who isn't Ghost, it's Poison, so let's swap out into our ground Pokemon as it goes for a Curse. Which is fine with me because I'm packing the power of the earth, but never mind, it has Levitate, and a Body Slam does a lot. He then swaps out Snorgar and sends in Wubgar. Okay, so then I heal up. And now this thing's going for Curses. I'm going to go for a Giga Drain because I don't really know what to do here, and it tries to go for a counter. Unfortunately, I'm stuck in here because of Shadow Tag, so I'm going to go for another Giga Drain, and then another one again. Fortunately, this thing doesn't have Levitate, so we go for an Earth Power, taking it down, and then Snorgar comes back in. So I'm going to swap out and send Drilly back in as this thing goes for a Shadow Punch. Another Shadow Punch does some more chip damage to me, and I can go for an Iron Head doing just under 50%. Another Shadow Punch is going to come in, getting me down to just 38 HP, and now this thing is wicked low. So I'm going to swap out Drilly and then send in Cleffy, as this thing can no longer hit me with Shadow Punches. It's then going to go for a Body Slam, and we can fire off a Tri-Attack, finishing off Snorgar, and we're moving on to Lance. And it's now time for us to take on Lance and his mythical dragon dudes. Braggados comes in first, and we send in Drilly because I forgot to switch. That's probably fine though. I'm going to stay in, and this thing's going to go for a Rain Dance, and we go for a Swords Dance. It then fires off a Hydro Pump doing a decent amount of damage, and we can go for a Night Slash, getting it quite low. Assuming Lance is going to heal up, and he does, we're going to go for a second Swords Dance here. After that, the Dragados is going to go for an Outrage, and even though it's not very effective, it still does quite a bit of damage, activating our berry, getting me to about half, and we can go for a +4 Night Slash, scoring a crit, and getting the KO, which is going to lead into Typhnair. And even though the rain's going, I don't think I'm faster than this thing, and I'm not risking a Fire Blast, so I'm going to swap out, sending in Blasty, as he does indeed go for a Fire Blast. It's going to go for another Fire Blast, and then we are going to go for a Nasty Plot. It goes for another Fire Blast, and I'm going to go for a Surf, even though it's neutral, but I still do quite a bit of damage. And on the following turn, one more Surf can take Typhnair down. Dogonite comes in after that, and I completely forgot to teach this thing Ice Beam, but I still do have Flash Cannon, so I do about 50% on the first turn, and it's going to go for an Outrage, getting me down to just 10 HP. Luckily, I'm faster though, and one more Flash Cannon takes down the Dogonite. Tyrannodactyl's up next. And I'm going to swap out, sending in Multi, because I know I can resist all this thing's moves, and he goes for a Brave Bird, which does still quite a bit to me. Lance then goes for a full restore for some reason, and I'm going to go for an Iron Head, doing about half. After that, it hits us with a Dragon Rush, and I can get it down super low. And after one more Dragon Rush, it's going to activate our berry, and I flinch before this thing decides to go for a Brave Bird, and almost KOing itself, but I can finish it off, which leads into Porydraw. I'm going to swap out into Cleffy, assuming a Dragon Pulse, but he goes for a Tri-Attack, and I get paralyzed. Porydraw then goes for another Tri-Attack, and we can go for a Moonblast, grabbing the Yoko, and we're moving on to Rando. As we enter the Champion's Chamber, we find that Rando has decorated this place floor to ceiling with flowers and photos of us. In just about every town, route, city, and gym we've been to along this entire journey, apparently Rando's been close behind us, keeping track of our every move, creating the perfect album for our wedding. Rando, we haven't even gone on a first date, and I was about to say yes, but all these pictures? I don't even know what to think. But I do know it's definitely time for me to beat you up and become the champion. Rando starts off with Nidogeot, and we send in Blasty. It's going to go for a Wing Attack, and we're going to go for a Nasty Plot. And I might as well go for another one as this thing sets up a Swords Dance. And after that, Nidogeot is going to go for an Earthquake, which I did not realize it had. And I stay up on 35 HP. We can then go for a Discharge and take down Nidogeot. Blasty, you are a little beast, my dude. Rhyper Mortar comes in next, and I know I'm going to be faster than this thing, so we're going to stay in, going for a Surf, and we can take it down in one. Out next comes Charizard. And I don't think I'm faster than it, but I'm hoping that a Resistant Inferno I can survive, and we do. We do get burnt, which is a little unfortunate, but we can go for a super effective Surf, taking Charizard down. Next up is Tartor. And I'm going to swap out Blasty, and instead, I'm going to send in Drilly, and this thing's going to go for a Zen Headbutt, doing barely anything to us. After going for another Zen Headbutt, we're going to set up a Swords Dance. And going for a Stab, Swarm Boosted X Scissor takes this thing down, which leads into Electados, who's going to go for a Thunder Punch, scoring a pretty big hit, and we can go for a +1 Night Slash, doing some good damage. But I'm going to swap out and send in Nido, and he tries to go for another Thunder Punch. Rando uses a full restore, and I'm going to go for a Toxic to try to bait out the rest of his potions. After he uses another one, we're going to go for a Giga Drain just for giggles. And before it sets up the Rain Dance, we're going to go for another Toxic. He doesn't even bother using a full restore this time, as he goes for a Waterfall, and I can go for a Giga Drain, sucking up a little bit of healing. And after going for another Waterfall, I'm down pretty low, and we can go for another Giga Drain. And this is when Rando uses his full restore, and we can go for another Giga Drain again. With another Waterfall bringing us down low, I can't attack from the flinch. So I'm going to swap out Nido, and I'm going to send in Cleffy instead as he goes for another Waterfall. With another Waterfall, I'm knocked down to 60, and I flinch. Rando then uses another full restore for some reason, and I can go for a Stab Adaptability Tri-Attack, and I do barely any damage as he sets up another Rain Dance. And going for another Tri-Attack, we scored a crit, getting him down quite low as he goes for one more Waterfall, and I'm on 23. But I unleash the power of Tri-Beam, taking down Electados. Next up is Starkazam, and I'm going to swap out and send in Zammy as he goes for a Surf, which does a lot of damage to us, but we do heal up with our berry. I'm then going to outspeed with an Energy Ball, doing about 60%. And this time he's going to go for a Surf, and Zammy goes down. So in comes Multi. He goes for a Psychic, which obviously we can resist, but he does lower our special defense, and we go for an Iron Head, which he also resists, and now it's super low. And with another Surf, he scores a massive hit out of nowhere, KOing us. So in comes Drilly. The Starkazam goes for a Psychic, and I'm left up on 14 HP as a Night Slash takes it down. If it had clicked Surf, I would have lost the battle. I think Rando threw because he's in love with me, though. And that, everybody, is how I beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Infinite Fusion using only Green's Pokemon Adventures team. If you liked the video and you made it this far and you're not subscribed, then what the heck is the matter with you? Make sure you hit that button down below and maybe give that thumb a little tickle. I know you want to. I do a new Nuzlocke run just about every week, and more often than not, it's Pokemon Infinite Fusion. So if you have any suggestions for runs you'd like to see in the future, please let me know in the comments down below, and let me know what your favorite fusion was. But anywho, I'll catch you all in the next video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you later.